like to call the regular board meeting of Monday, June the 20th to order at 6:30 p.m. I'd like to acknowledge that today's board meeting is being held within the traditional territory of the Geneva and Treaty 8. Are there any additions to the agenda? Can I get a mover and seconder for the agenda? Moved by Bill, seconded by Ida. All in favor? Thank you. Carried. And it's exciting tonight because we have a delegation, and I'm going to turn it over to Heather to introduce her crew, and we're going to hear about the arts in Fort St. John, which is exciting.
Actually, I guess I'm starting off.
Are you starting off? Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
We're going to trick you all around here. Yes, thank you for having us. My name is Margaret May, and this is Kelly Serreris and Heather Truscott, and we're here from the Fort St. John Community Arts Council to talk about kind of our early plans to work towards getting a creative hub in Fort St. John, and specifically with kind of a discussion over potential partnerships with the school district going forward. And it'll be my role to quickly just give you a little bit of background. The background goes back a long way, but it's just there's always been a need we felt for more space for the arts, and we see it, of course, firsthand with our arts groups scrambling for space and getting kicked out of spaces and having to move to another space. And we have space, arts groups in the Arts Council building where they're bursting the seams. And we've also seen amazing growth with though when they have that opportunity. So starting a little while ago, we started the process to put in place a feasibility study, because we felt that was the first step towards getting the ball rolling and looking towards the future of again fundraising and creating the space. So what we were looking for is to look at the demand and what basically came out of the feasibility study. And you'll be relieved to know that I'm not going to go through the entire 69 pages of it, but we wanted to know, is there demand? Is it possible? Like, would it be used? Would it be? What are the potential sources of revenue? What are potential ways that we want it to be sustainable? So we hired we got the funding in place through the local governments and through Heritage Canada, and hired a consultant firm that then went through a process of community consulting to assess whether the need was there. And also they came up and we did a potential venue tour. So we went through a few empty buildings, we looked at a few empty lots, which there's plenty of to look at, and they did kind of an assessment. They did some studies of the local economy, and we didn't pick the greatest time to do it, but and then came back with this feasibility study that I believe that has confirmed the demand, the need, and the benefit also of having a creative hub in Fort St. John that would. We feel like it would just grow the arts. We feel like it would help revitalize the town, because what they came up with was 3 different options, which we're going to talk more about option 3 out of your leaflet there. And they like the idea of having it right downtown. So the preferred options was the cultural center or next to the cultural center. So we also feel like it dovetails nicely with city plans for downtown revitalization. We see all kinds of potential partnerships moving forward, and there's quite a bit of excitement among arts groups because we've seen the growth that's happened just in our little space at the arts. So we see potential growth in many more areas. Like we have penciled in on the projected designs, places for woodworking, metalwork, glass blowing. I mean, the sky's the limit if you've got the space. And it's affordable space to do it. So, so we feel like we have proven and established that the need is there, that it would definitely have to be. So I'm just going to turn it over to Connie to talk a little bit about what we've kind of done since there and what we feel like we have to look at moving forward.
So then once we actually had the feasibility study completed, then it was sort of taking it forward. So we met with the staff at the District of Taylor. We also presented to the regional district, and of course then we had actually initially met with the staff with the city, and they were very excited about it, and then they were sort of suggesting we get our Class D estimate to get it in cost, and that we But anyway, we decided that's actually a little further down the road. So then we went, and we did eventually present to the city council, a bit concerned that we had sort of presented already the regional district and Taylor, but they were super excited about it. Like, they're very thrilled because, as Margaret mentions, it does work with the idea of the downtown revitalization. And I think they're having a bit of trouble even just to, get traction where you get enough developers that would be interested in developing, having housing downtown. So they were really keen, their staff as well as the city council, around the option 3, which is, across the road from the cultural center with the creative hub could take up to even 2 to 3 floors with some retail down there, retail space, and then living space above. And as we've kind of started to talk to different groups, people are really interested in the living space, as well as the idea of having multi-purpose rooms and creative space. And what we're looking at is affordable space for the artists and the arts groups, as well as affordable living above, and then having that traffic happening downtown. So kind of looking at there's one thing that's come up too is just different avenues for funding, and finding Heritage Canada is a big one to getting that built. I mean, obviously there would have to be matching funding. I mean, our main partner, of course, is the city of Fort St. John, because they own the land right now. So we're, starting to have those conversations with them. How is this going to look? We're open to different ideas. And then once, our plan is also in terms of, finding the different funding, even getting businesses on side too, to help with the matching and maybe even in kind, and then looking at ways to sustain it. And there's lots of possibilities there with providing sort of commercial retail space. Heather can talk about a bit more about, having a grocery store or a little cafe, little businesses on the ground floor that also help with those that live above, but also then, having the artist spaces there as well. So, and then there's the other area that we're thinking of is that with the cultural center just across the road, the Cultural Society could actually manage both facilities, and you're sort of saving on that, having that management already in place. We're also looking at the idea of that the gallery that's currently in the Cultural Center would actually move over to the Creative Hub, being where the artists are. That would actually free up space in the Cultural Center that could help with the library, because they're crammed for space as well. So I think there's lots of opportunities with this project.
My turn.
Yeah, your turn.
Okay.
I'm thinking about it for 10 minutes.
So, as we all know, art is for everyone. You can be disabled and do art. It's just for everyone. If you have a mental illness, often they use art as a way of getting past that problem that you have. So our question to you guys is, how can we help you with your art programs? And some of the possibilities is maybe have it as a partial arts campus, where maybe for a quarter of the school year, the kids would actually be in that campus just focusing on art stuff. Maybe it would be that it would be really short-term art classes on specific things, where a class would come in and do pottery or quilting, spinning and weaving, leatherwork, printmaking, painting, but these would be taught by master crafts people in that genre. Some of the other things is maybe it's affordable housing for new teachers that are coming into town with their families, or visiting lecturers or artists in residence that maybe you want to bring into the area. It could be used as professional development for staff. They could come in and actually do a workshop on some of these art ideas that are going to be happening. We've been in preliminary talks with Community Living, and they're interested in housing and as well as art space, because they want to start an art program with their people. We've talked to the Métis Society, and they're interested in housing again, as well as art programs for their people. seniors are especially interested in the affordable housing. And as me coming into the senior years, I'm looking at it going, oh my goodness, like I could live above my projects that I want to work on and go down at 3 a.m. and quilt if I want. So perfect for seniors. And then the college, I've had really preliminary talks with, not the upper people, but just the people I have talked to. They were saying it would be great for housing, especially for those people coming from overseas or out of country or whatever, so that they would actually be downtown and be able to be closer to where they're working and other activities that are happening downtown, as well as some art classes for things that they can take back to their countries. We look at it as a possibility for retention of teachers and their families, so that they can say, hey, you know, we've got art here. It's not just the boonies where it's just all sports. And also for doctors and other professionals that want in the community. So then the question is, what do we want from you guys? So first, we want to know if you're interested in the project, if this is something that you guys go, yeah, we do need more art in the community. And if there's some way that you can see this working into your long-term plan, because we're probably, 5 years out? If it were up to me, this would already be being built, but it's not up to me. I have other people that, apparently money, I don't know. Anyway, so we're kind of looking at a 5-year plan, and then ideas, any kind of ideas that you have that you're not seeing already there, or, you know, just toss them out, because as you have seen, there's this section here. So this is just a rough concept. This is me putting stuff on paper just to kind of put it into space so we can see, do we have enough space? And this is based on the lot across from the cultural center, and this is exactly the size of the lot. So I have not taken into account easements and other stuff, which some architect, that's their job. But in it, when we met with Stephen earlier, he had mentioned preschool. You definitely need a preschool. And so we put the preschool in there. And somebody else said, oh, we need a grocery store. So I put a grocery store in there. So as ideas come to me, then I will add them to the plan. And if we have to go up to a 3rd floor with the arts, then that's what we'll do. And I don't know, like housing wise, like is there a limit on how tall buildings can be? Like can you only go 5 stories higher? I don't know.
Well, I think it's based on right now, the restraints right now, which they're saying that's why they're upgrading the sewer and water, is to be able to, for fire code, to be able to have the sprinkler systems and everything work. So,
Okay.
but I mean, we could be looking at.
Depends if it's a wood construction only, then there's either 3 or 4 floors.
Okay.
So it's also the building material.
Right. Wood is too expensive anyway, so we'll go metal.
But as Heather said, this is a work in progress, and we
It is.
took the original plan that the architect drew for the feasibility study, and there's some gaps and some things that they hadn't given adequate space to develop. So that has been kind of working to develop around playing with different ideas. And again, it's a work in progress, and it's flexible and open to
Oh,
ideas. as you
definitely
said.
flexible. Sky's the limit, guys. Think big.
Yeah, so thank you, and so when we had initially met, the idea then, trustees, was to kind of bring it to this table just to make sure that you were looped in on what this project is. And then it is a kind of a long-term project, and then staff would be able to sort of talk with you on an ongoing basis in terms of some of the questions you asked tonight or some of the needs that we have, and then keep the conversation going with trustees around potential synergies or partnerships or needs that are mutually beneficial. And so that's why we had you here tonight. But I don't know if there's questions from the trustees.
Any questions?
I mean, I'm looking at it, I'm sure most of it have seen stuff like this, But I mean, I have a friend that lives in something like this. They don't have the wood shop and that kind of stuff, but they have like a couple art studios downstairs and a little grocery store and a pub and that kind of stuff. And they love it,
Mhm.
kind of thing. I mean, it's so convenient. The one part I look at and go, ugh, is underground parking for St. John. It's-
Well, the good part is there wouldn't be snow removal.
No, but it's.
There is a cost to it, I mean, there's no doubt.
There's
But
none
the-
right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. It's
There is?
the Trump Towers over the new Brightside Montmarie, that big
Okay.
huge apartment building is underground parking.
Yeah,
So
and
it's-
another place has underground parking is by the old fire hall, I think in behind there, that apartment building has underground parking.
So the shifting doesn't affect it much, kind of thing.
I mean, it's engineered and
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
We feel that it would be kind of essential if you have the housing to have underground parking
Yeah.
because it is a.
Oh, yeah, there's
On that
parking
lot.
there is very limited,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's definitely, I mean, and the other thing is, you know, on top of here, in my normal job kind of thing, I mean, there's stuff here that, like the glass studio, the pottery, that kind of stuff. I work for Community Bridge. So in the winter time, especially during COVID, I didn't want to take them outside too much, because if you get sniffles, because it's cold outside,
Right.
everybody thinks you're sick. So we struggle to find places indoors to do stuff,
Mhm.
eh? So I mean, glass studio, pottery, that kind of stuff, I mean, even, you know, the cafe, I mean, there's lots of little places, but I mean, that's close to my work. Right, so you just walk down there and have coffee kind of thing, and, eh? Or the presentation space
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about too, about how, well, bringing people downtown, as you say, and then also with the cafe and maybe a little presentation spaces. Discuss what some of the areas in this community that we feel are kind of underserved, and one of them is that 18 to 30 age group, like kids, they come back from university or something, and they, you know, if they want to go to the bar every night, there's not a lot for them to do, so having a place downtown where it's busy and,
Different activities.
yeah, with different activities, as you say, things to do indoors in the wintertime, that we thought that would be an area that we could improve the service in the community.
And I think the city too, this is where, I mean, this was something they put out in 2013 for that current corner. They were looking at the sort of developer to come and do a, you know, retail and on the bottom and, you know, that sort of thing, and then apartments above to try and kickstart it, and they haven't really
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
had, you know, but I think having a sort of a public project like this kind of gets the ball rolling, and then you start having that kind of critical mass where you have people starting living downtown and being there, then it's more desirable to developers to consider there, and then people see, hey, this is actually, you know, this wouldn't be bad living downtown as opposed to, you know, it's hard right now because they're trying to make those changes, and it's sometimes hard to visualize how this could be.
Well, I think it's really exciting with the concept, and I think, you know, as you continue to flesh things out, going back and forth with district staff to see what kind of partnerships could emerge and how it could evolve is exciting. I don't,
Yeah, you know what, I think back when they were doing the cultural center, and people
Yes.
thought that that was advanced, this is so much better. And you know, we're always looking at recruitment and intention for, whether it be for us or whether it be for other professionals, like to bring our doctors and to bring people up here. I just think this is great.
Well, and even private businesses like for Swears, we're looking
Yeah.
for people to move up here and, you know, and what can you draw them to, you know, or what would draw them to come up, and not everybody is into
And you know, really,
blogging or
when you look at the generations, the ones coming up now, they really don't want to work 24/7. They want a cultural life.
balance, yeah.
That balance.
I mean, what you guys have here so far, there's a variety of things in there. So you can go, you know, do some pottery and go over and have a coffee where your stuff is in the heater or whatever kind of thing. Okay? In the same building.
Definitely. And there's a sense of community happens between artists, and they feed off each other. So what somebody does in pottery, and then a quilter will look at it and go, oh man, like I could use one of these quilts. The shape is perfect, right? So it's a great marriage between everybody being able to be in one space.
Well, no, there's certainly enthusiasm at this table, and the project has got a tremendous amount of potential for our community. So,
We think so.
I'm excited.
We think even like we haven't even talked about the tourism piece, like, I mean, you
Yeah.
have that sort of arts district right downtown that, and with the sort of upgrades they're doing to the street, and then, at Centennial Park, then
Yeah.
that's another, would draw people, get people off the highway and get them coming into the downtown area.
Any other comments or questions from trustees? So what we've heard you tonight, we never, after we've had a delegation or anything, make a decision. We take the information.
Not expect that.
Think about it. I will encourage you to take a look when you're going. There's a lot of grants and support out there for energy efficient buildings and looking to build that way. And I know the city's got lots of background in that area after doing their passive solar house, so it's another revenue stream.
Yeah, we've kind of thought about that, plus if you wanted to do it, but the potential for revenue if you do something.
Yeah, and the reducing your operating costs if you're
For sure.
eco-friendly building.
All right, well, thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Information.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye now.
Yep.
I'm sorry we did give them more than 10 minutes, but after our experience with speaking with a countdown timer, I just couldn't cut that enthusiasm off.
Well, I think they stuck to their 10-minute presentation, and then there's discussion time after.
All right, moving on to item number 4 on our agenda, and welcome, David. Trustee input and celebrations, Trustee Campbell.
Yes, since the last board meeting, I've been to the policy and committee meeting. I went to a Peace Regional Historical Society in Taylor that they're looking at doing center down there, which is a long ways away, about a 5-year they're looking at as well. And it was really interesting to meet with them. And I went to the Retirement and Long Service Awards, the Burt Bowes track meet, and opening of the track. I went to the Taylor author book signing that the kids did this year. The classrooms each did a book. And I attended grad. I went to a PAC meeting, and I went to another thing. It was coffee with the Taylor Council, and that was really interesting about the different things that they're doing. But they are going to do a workshop, Candidate 101 workshop, on June 21st and August 24th at 6:30 in the council chambers. What it's geared at is anyone that wants to run for council in Taylor, but I attended last year, and they actually had, the presenters had some pretty good information. So anyone wanting to run for any election, whether it be school board or counselor, I think that it's worthwhile attending. So I do plan on going to that tomorrow night as well.
So you said June 21st, and when was the other one?
August 24th. And at 6:30. It's on their website.
Okay, Taylor's website.
Yeah.
Right. Trustee Evans.
Yeah, I don't have anything.
Don't want to ignore you though, so that's why I want to ask. Okay, Trustee Gillis sends her regrets tonight. Vice Chairman Lehman is asleep in Switzerland. I will add that so everybody watching knows, but no asleep here, she's in Switzerland. Trustee Scotland Creed.
I also did the dinner and was a short while at the Bose track meet. visited, chatted with Buick. They're very excited. They've got a bit of an uptick in students. I've got late blood towards Angela for busing, so that's doing well. Went up to 101 and had a walkabout. That field needs some help. I wouldn't want the kids to play soccer on that. It's a terrible situation up there. Chatted with Presbytu this morning. Everything's good there. On Wednesday, I'm going out to Buick for a pig roast with the kids. Community thing. So.
Trustee Sewell.
All righty. Gotta think here, but did the public speaking contest at Montgomery, or not Montgomery, sorry, Ram Roberts. The retirement dinner. Been over to Ambrose and the high school to check up on how they're doing. Went down to Burpos with track meet. Went and checked out a couple of fun day activities, a couple of the schools. A couple of the students, or some of the students for fun, put up a nice big for sale sign at Burpos inside the school. And for sale wasn't just the building, it was the whole staff included. I tried to make a bid, but they wouldn't take it. What else? Well, I know there's more, but went around and delivered some baskets, flowers. Probably more, but that's all I can think of right now. Yeah, the policy committee meeting. That's all I can think of right now, but keep busy.
So I finished up Ready, Set, Learn sessions, and on the 25th, I attended a Northeast Roundtable meeting that the minutes aren't out from yet, and when I have those, I'll bring the information back. Policy committee meeting. Highlight for me was the district track meet, not because I'm only focused on sports, but there was just such a wonderful community feeling that day. It was a great day. Bell PAC meeting I attended. Stephen and I did a meeting with Mayor Ackerman and Milo.
I'm sorry, I can't remember.
I can't think of his name, but he's like their executive,
Mhm.
like Stephen.
Correct.
And they were going down to UBCM and they wanted to know what our current concerns were. And they came to us the day after the committee of the whole meeting. So our lovely chart paper with all the stickies, we just went and grabbed it and said, oh, we can speak to this, this, and this. So what will come of that meeting, I don't actually know, but they left with lots of information. I attended the retirement dinner. I was supposed to represent you at the Northern Lights College grad, but I was sick and had to send regrets. I checked out the Montgomery Rotary Community Block Party on Saturday, and that seemed to be a fairly big success. Angela and I worked together, and we did our select standing committee presentation. Executive staff and myself met with the DPAC executive for lunch just to thank them for their service and what was going on. I was excited to catch up with the Taylor book reading, and you guys forgot grad at North Keys. You were both there. Did you say grad?
I didn't.
Ida did, okay, it was.
I thought I did.
Okay, but North Peace grad and Grand March on Friday. I'm going to go out to Hudson Hope with Stephen on Friday for their grad. I did the upper halfway meeting with the architects and then the budget deep dive. So it's been a busy few weeks. Okay. Busy
Done, Ellen?
weeks. I'm done.
Sorry, the Montgomery one you talked about, I went down to that.
Yeah,
But the neat thing is, everything was donated.
yes.
Like, it was 100% profit for them. Which was really nice, like, and it was a very, it was like a community festival kind of thing, like, it was literally like, it was parking spaces. Like, I was like, but there was a lot of people there. So people must have
People
walked
walked.
over and stuff, and
Yeah.
so it was really nice like that. And, what was the other one? Oh, on Saturday night I did the Grad Fest.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, had some fun. I
I hadn't heard
played
about that.
blackjack.
Either.
Like blackjack, and then a game.
My
called-
girls had so much fun with that.
And then a game called Splat the Rat I was doing. And it was really fun. The kids, they went, there was no issues at all. And they were all saying they were having fun.
The girls got home at 4:30 and just had a ball. They never experienced anything that much fun.
Well, and I think grad was very well attended.
grad
I mean, there was
Yeah.
a wonderful reunion too, so maybe we're on the way to moving forward a little bit with normal.
I'm assuming the empty seats that were at grad, like the few there were, there's always gonna be some kids that don't go. But I mean, those number of empty seats were not many at all. Kind of thing, like, a dozen maybe or something like that.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
That was good. All right. Lots and lots to celebrate, which is exciting. We'll move on to item number 5 on our agenda. Minutes of the regular board meeting, May the 24th, which is pages 5 to 11 in your package. Sorry. Can I get a mover and a seconder for those, please? Moved by Bill, seconded by Aaron. Were there any errors or omissions? All in favor then? Carried. Moving on to 5.2. Business arising from those minutes. Did you have anything you wanted to add about the pool consultation? Because I think you were going to that too, or was that Madeline?
That was Madeline.
Me and Madeline and Dave went to,
Sorry, I meant forgotten.
I forgot that
I knew
too.
there was something.
They did do a presentation, down at, when I went with Coffee with the Council as well.
Okay.
And I filled out the survey that, Stephen sent out, so.
I knew we had somebody that was at that, so.
It went really good.
Could be some interesting challenges in where to put it, because it was really vocal that they did not want the pool to close and for a year and a half while they built a new one. So they wanted the pool to stay open and build it somewhere else. So,
Anything from any other business related to those minutes? Moving on then to item number 6, approval of the excerpts of the regular board meeting of April the 25th, which is page 12 in your agenda package. Moved by Ida, seconded by David. Any errors or omissions? All in favor? Thank you. Announcements and reminders, and we tried to think about things that were coming up. The one thing that I thought about afterwards that we didn't put on here that I don't know if there's a date set for is the new teacher orientation.
Yeah.
So that would be
We
a
might
date
not
to
even
get.
know that
You
yet.
might not know it yet,
Yeah.
but that's a date that later on.
Yeah, we'll make sure we send that
Yeah.
out to you.
Is there anything else for that calendar that other people have thought of?
We all know where to find it, but they're on the last day of school, but the first day of school isn't on there, is it? Oh, no, it does, sorry, it does. I'm wrong.
You're just testing us.
I'm wrong.
Did we do good?
I can admit I'm wrong.
No. You were testing us. How did we do? All right?
Marvelous.
Go ahead, test us, test us.
Do you have the dates? I might be able to find them for, it says trustee election, but when you take the papers out.
Oh, when you can take papers out and file and stuff like that.
I believe it's September 9th, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's early September.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it.
August 30th, I thought. We just had a meeting about it today.
Nomination dates?
Yeah,
So nomination date and when nominations close.
I imagine that'll be part of some of the communication plan, Angela, on the
I
elections.
believe it's August 26th to September 9th is the nomination window.
Leave that in your capable hands, Lee. Senior staff reports, item number 8. We'll start with the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry.
they're, just so you know, they're probably exactly the same as the election, and its nomination period is August 20th to September 9th.
Okay.
Yes, happy to. Item number 1 is the regular activity summary report for human resources on the teacher side. Under education, I have my online superintendent's report. The theme for under intellectual development of the framework is leveraging learning with technology. And I recently went to the high school with Mr. Campbell and visited a couple of classes. This is upstairs in the computer, we used to call it computer lab. And all down the middle of the table are the latest 3D printing devices, along with the creative design software at each station to go along with them. So Ms. Andrews does an amazing job with a couple of her classes of creating some of these products with the kids. They design them and then they're able to print them off right there. So that just continues to improve each year. It was also very exciting, and I'm going to show you a video. Mr. Brandt is actually on the committee, the Canadian National Committee for Robotics Competition for high schools. And 2 of our teams qualified. And this is one particular team that you're going to see ended up coming in 5th. And they were actually 1st in our region as well. And so we do have some good history here from Presbyterian and North Peace teams participating. So I'm just going to quickly show you. And my apologies, no, that's the, here we go. Okay. And so what you're looking at on the top screen that Mr. Brandt is pointing to is a countdown timer that everyone else in the country is also following. So they had to do this virtually. They didn't go, the teams didn't go travel to one location. Believe it or not, they had to build the structure that you're going to see for the robots to move around and gather objects and place them somewhere else and carry out the same tasks across the country. And then they were up each time, and then they sent in those scores along with any of the errors and those kinds of things. So it was quite the organizational accomplishment.
So deep pit or shallow pit, and I move the orange plastic on top, and then in the bottom they've got yellow golf balls, 1-inch steel balls, and then pieces of small copper pipe. And the small copper pipe chunks are tailings, and then they have high quality and low quality gold. And so then they have to take them out. They get points for taking them out. They then get points for delivering them out into the delivery area. So they've got a delivery area for gold and a delivery area for the tailings. And so
They built both those robots.
delivery area now, well,
When he's gathering materials, gives it to the other one.
this is timed on. Yeah, they have 4 minutes to do maximum. So here we've got, so this is the gold goes in this little square on this side. So he's gonna try to feather it so they don't bounce out. So it's designed so they could bounce out. So they gotta be careful with that. And ooh, nice delivery. That's good. Put it wall there. They go into a deep pit or a shallow pit, and they have to kind of move the orange plastic on top, and then in the bottom they've got yellow golf balls, 1-inch steel balls.
So that was very exciting to see that, and our students continue to excel in those competitions. Under human social development, Helen and others, Bill, have referred to the district public speaking contest. It is an excellent development of student skills and confidence. And so it's so nice to see Anne Roberts Young, and I believe it was Melissa DeGroot, organized this, and it was fantastic for that to come together, and a real pleasure to be there at that time. Helen also mentioned the elementary track and field, which is another component of really important human and social development of our kids. And it was just a beautiful day all around. We were able to also capture a couple of drone shots from some different perspectives. So when you look at the report, you can kind of make your screen bigger to see what that looks like, but it was quite spectacular. And the organizing team did a terrific job. Under career and skill development, you'll find the latest update for Under Career Swiss and International, the newsletter. Also under Career and Skills, Health and Slope School visited what used to be called the Grand Prairie College. It's now called Northwestern Polytechnic. And they visited the Indigenous Support Center, millwright classrooms, electric trades. And so that's the theme now of what used to be the Grand Prairie College. And so they really enjoyed that visit there. Under Operations and Human Resources, plans are already in place for several workshops, one of them being a 4-day workshop for teachers around plotting the new school year. So that will happen at the end of August for those teachers wishing to participate. Under Truth and Reconciliation, Laura Doyle was at Burpo School and presented an urban moose hide to a group of students there around that cultural practice, as well as there were some hand games going on led by Elder David Rattray, who some of you may remember worked in our district as well. At the Indigenous Center, there was the grad barbecue. Unfortunately, it was the same evening as the retirement celebrations, but there were over 200 people there, and by all accounts, it was a very special occasion. And we'll make sure that it doesn't conflict with the retirement dinner next year. Baldonnel also on June 6th held an Indigenous Day for their school community, and you can read some more on the drums and the dancing games that they did with their students, and it was facilitated. Under Take 3 celebrations around the district, I will show you very briefly a video from Central School. They collected for donation hundreds of boxes of cereal, and so for the Salvation Army, and they then set them up like dominoes across the entire school. Downstairs, anyway.
Jasmine, regardez.
So the entire school was lined up on either side. And, it even went down some stairs. Around corners. So that was very exciting as well. And also, several of you mentioned the reading, the creation of the little author's books in each of the classes. And so I also was there and got to go and read a bit more of the poems that the classes and stories that the classes created in each of those classes. Also pretty exciting, upper halfway in 101 schools had the BC Wildfire Service smoke jumpers come and do a demonstration jump, and so the kids went there to watch that, and that was a real highlight for them. And so that's my online report, and then I would ask that item number 2, out of district field trips, if we could please remove that for a motion to approve 2 trips, and that's my report. Thank you.
Can I have a mover and a seconder for students' report, please? Moved by Aaron, seconded by Bill. All right, any questions related to the human resources report? And looking now at the education report, any questions, comments related to what we saw within that?
And I'll just make a comment that I sure like the way you do that, Stephen. Like, I think it gives us a glimpse of the district, and I really do enjoy
Thanks.
watching this.
I like small numbers. There's lots of stuff that just, it's really neat.
You know, funnily enough, the take three, if you recall, was from, the idea was from, do you remember, Helen, we went to a BCSDA conference?
Right.
And
Yeah.
a school from Ontario presented, and they said, you know, you should always finish with three things that are always going on that are fun around the district.
I remember that.
I know this, I ask this quite often, but
Yeah.
how's our recruiting going?
It's picking up, but I will say that we still have a handful of positions without applicants for regular enrolling teaching positions, including, for example, at some of the harder to fill places like 101 and Upper Halfway, as well as French immersion. So some of our toughest to fill at the best of times, unfortunately, are still lacking applicants. And HR is doing a number of things. We put out some email blasts. We're working with Make a Future to pay for further advertising. And, you know, we're calling universities and putting it out on personal networks and doing everything we can. But it feels like we are in a bit of a tighter position than we've been in the last few years.
Did you ever pass on that university I told you
Yeah,
about?
yeah, I've seen it.
French
Yeah,
one?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and I believe even Broyden knew about it and some others, so they're checking there too. But by the way, though, it is not unusual, I've done it myself, to be hiring over the summer.
Oh, no, exactly.
Just so there's some context that it does happen, but I sure wish we had all the positions already filled.
Yeah. I know you're not gonna say everything's filled.
No, but it feels like there's gonna be a bit more hiring over the summer than we would have liked.
When you say handful, you're talking 5, 6?
Yeah, a handful, 5 to 6. There were even more just a couple of weeks ago that did not have applicants, and we've actually just hired someone at Baldonnel. We didn't have much there at all beforehand, so it is slowly moving, and we're down to a few that have no applicants for.
So we used the best information that we had in the moment when we did the financial standing committee, and if you looked at that stuff, we said there was the potential for up to 20 letters of permission, because we had so many positions sitting 2 weeks ago that we did not have any applicants for, but it's apparently got a little better, which is
Good.
pretty exciting.
I believe I heard, wasn't the person from Baldonnel already came from a school? So it's not,
No, this is, so there's.
It's not like a brand
there's
new
been fair number of different developments in this one that was just hired. Sorry, I'm sorry, I misspoke there. It was at Taylor. We hired a brand new teacher, sorry.
We just need to home grow all our teachers, just home grow them all.
Yeah.
Everybody come from here, so they'll stay here.
it was nice that a couple of them the other day, grad said they wanted to be teachers.
Yeah.
We just gotta make sure they come back.
Sorry.
So all in favor of acknowledging Stephen's report, and can I have the motion related to the out-of-district field trips made by someone, please? Made by Aaron, seconded by David, that the Board of Education approve the attached out-of-district field trips for Hudson's Hope and Taylor schools. All in favor? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the Secretary Treasurer's report.
So I will start with, the finance update to May 31st. You can see we are a bit underspent at this time as of May 31st. Sorry, I can't find it in my. And then we'll get to questions around that. I'm learning not to ask. I have a copy of the carbon neutral report to December 31st, 2021. And then our HR support staff summary for May 19th to June 16th. And that is my report.
Can I have a mover and second for those reports, please? Moved by David, seconded by Ida. And now we'll take a look at discussion. Financial update to May 31st. Any questions related to that? You have to share.
I have it typed.
So one of my questions was, did we end up with less Alberta students than we expected? Because we didn't get as much money as we thought we
We
were
did
going to
end,
there.
we did end up with less, and we ended up with less of a, last year, we received more in the form of a secondary transportation amount that came in. And this is the final amount verified, so a bit lower than.
And the other thing that I wondered about is the concept of lower than expected funding with educational assistance. If there's any background to that.
81.7 versus, I did look into that. The only thing I can speak to is, we are having trouble filling all, seems to be an issue with quite a bit of staffing in the district. We are having trouble filling some of the EA positions. We're getting postings that go out that aren't getting filled. We also, people at this time are running out of, there's been more of an uptick for sick time, and not just specific to EAs, but we're seeing that across the district. And so that's when you have an uptick, more time off that's without leave available to you, that goes unpaid. So I tried to see what that variance was from, and that's what I could come up with.
Any other questions related to the financial update? Moving on, the carbon neutral report. I can tell you the form has changed. 2 years ago, Terry Stoneman signed it. The last 2 years, Chad has signed it. And because I was looking at our report back 10 years for the work on the climate change working group that I'm part of, it's an interesting read over the 10 years. So. Human resources summary.
Do we have any replacement bus drivers now? No?
Casuals, you mean? We do have some. We are trying to build our numbers just with all the same as in other casual areas. So.
I'll tell you what I'm asking. Today I noticed that there was a bus
Can
canceled.
volunteer as a bus driver?
There was a bus canceled today.
Yes,
And so I'm assuming because there was nobody to drive it.
because there was nobody.
Yeah.
It's not, we definitely know that it's a concern, and we're working with Cindy on how to recruit. And we have several people retiring. We have some medical leave, so it's all kind of the perfect storm right now in the transportation department.
Just anybody with a class, whatever, it is impossible to hire right now. It's just,
And then you add air brakes to it as well.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, that anybody with a big ticket, it's very difficult.
I don't know what exactly what they need kind of thing compared to like a rig or something.
Is it a 4? Is it definitely a 3? Because they gotta have their air ticket, so that's.
Yeah, their air for sure.
So.
Yeah, so we're definitely working on a plan to come up. But I'm not too sure what that plan will look like, but we'll keep you posted on that one.
It's when I see
No, it's a great,
I see the cancellation, I was kind of like, oh, it's really nice.
No, I don't think it's.
Usually we do have, like Alex, for example, is working on a marketing campaign, and so we're gonna be wrapping some vehicles, and we're gonna be targeting bus drivers specifically in this first campaign wave
Yeah.
to see what interest we can generate with that. You may have seen similar things around the province or even in Dawson Creek when they park buses and those kinds of things.
Yeah,
with-
yeah, I see
Right,
Walmart. in
Right,
Dawson.
and so we actually have Alex working on that. We've ordered some wraps. We're gonna start them on some vehicles and to promote this as much as we can.
Any others? All right. Calling the question, all in favor? Carried. Moving on to item number 9, reports of the regular committee of the whole meeting, June the 6th, pages 15 to 16 in your agenda package. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Aaron, seconded by David. Sorry if I'm rushing you. Any errors or omissions in those minutes? Calling the question, all in favor? Carried. 9.2, business arising. Any questions or anything related to those minutes? Right. Moving on to 9.3, policy committee. So Bill, we have an option here, and I didn't get a chance to speak to you about it. Do you want to take through the next set of policy stuff, control of the meeting, because it is coming out of policy? Or do you want me to continue?
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I should have talked to you about that. I meant to, and we got talking about something else before the meeting. So there was a policy committee meeting on June the 6th, and we are looking at policy. The policy committee meeting notes were part of your agenda package. And we'll move through the policies as we looked at them at that meeting. So the first one we'll take a look at is policy 5003, physical examination of bus drivers. It was originally moved by Madeline. We need a seconder for that motion. Second by David. And the motion is that the Board of Education adopt policy 5003, physical examination of bus drivers. There wasn't any other feedback on it. I should have asked that first, sorry. So there was no feedback on that policy, so we now have a mover. It's been out for notice of motion for a month. It was seconded tonight, so that policy, calling the question, all in favor? Policy is carried. Moving on to item number C, employment-related accommodation policy. And what has happened with that policy is we did move it, and it was moved initially by David Scott Moncrief. We had, as you note in the minutes from the policy committee meeting, there was a substantial amount of feedback to it. And so there were a number of revisions made to what we put out. So we're not passing this policy at this point in time. We are putting it forward for notice of motion to be coming up at the first board meeting in either August or September. And Angela, do you want to add anything further to the process around that particular motion?
Just that we received quite a bit of good feedback, and that's what this process is for. So we took that all in hand and had several conversations with people who it was directly affecting, and we've come up with this new policy, and once it goes out for notice of motion, I have a group of teachers waiting to review it again, and then hopefully we'll be good to go after this, so.
So Helen?
Yep.
You have to ask if, David still wants to move it because it's been amended.
Okay, do you still want to, thank you, Ida.
So with the changes coming?
Yeah.
With the changes coming.
Because
with
we're putting
changes,
it up for the notice of motion
Yes,
for the
please.
month?
Yep.
Okay, so thank you very much. Moving on to D, 8001 budget development, monitoring and reporting. So this one, we are moving to look for a deletion of it, and it would be going out for notice of a motion. And the reason that we're looking for deletion is because we have the two new policies that we were required to have by the ministry, and that's the accumulated surplus and budgeting policy and the financial reporting. So to have this policy is redundant, hence the ask for deletion. So could I have a mover on that? Moved by Ida, that the Board of Education put forward policy 8001, budget development, monitoring and reporting for notice of motion for deletion. Because it's a notice of motion, we stop there. Moving on to look at 3003, which is learning resources. And in the learning resources policy, what we were looking at doing was updating the language to reflect our partnership with Focused Education. I used to know the name of the other one off the top of my head, but it's just gone. And we've just looked at upgrading language in this because it still had things like school funds, and now we put in framework for enhancing learning and things like that. So I'm looking for someone on that to move.
Helen?
Yep.
If we can just clarify, maybe Leah, that this is actually, it's not a new policy though.
No,
So somewhere in there, if we could include in the motion that it's a revision of policy 3003.
forward revision,
Yeah,
okay,
Yeah,
we'll
thank you.
put that in. Can I have a mover on this policy, please? Moved by Aaron, and the motion will be that the Board of Education put forward the revision to policy 3003, selection of learning resources, out for notice of motion. Okay. International travel is one that we're looking to put forward for a notice of motion, and we'll look. Do I have somebody that's willing to move this?
I speak to someone about that first.
Okay,
I
We should have a mover.
mover first, moved by Aaron. All right, and now would you like to speak to it?
I noticed this earlier, the 1, 2, 3, third bullet down. Students and or the school are responsible for any cost, it says. Associated with the trip.
Yeah.
Or the school?
Sorry?
It says, or the school.
Mhm.
Students and or the school.
Yeah.
These trips are paid for by the students, right?
It depends, Bill. Sometimes the school needs to support some students. Sometimes there are grants from the school that pay for it.
Okay.
But unfortunately, the process here is that it's going out for notice of motion, so it's not really the platform.
Okay.
I'm just thinking process here.
Yeah, we can bring forward revisions once it's put out.
Oh, we can, okay, okay.
Because it would come back to the policy committee as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, so the motion is that the Board of Education put forward policy 2003 international travel for notice of motion. Again, to come back later on. Excuse me for a minute. All right. Moving on to other reports. Yeah, we okay. BCSTA. I don't think there's anything. BCPC. I don't think there's anything. Board Pro D. We are in the process of preparing for advance. Again, if you haven't done your survey, if you could do so. And if there are things that you really want to make sure that we talk about, if you could make sure that you let me know what those are. Correspondence, I don't think there is any. And we're moving on to unfinished business. Do you want to talk about our financial standing committee experience?
Somebody please start talking.
Well, Helen and I spoke with, got to present at the Financial Standing Committee, and Helen submitted I believe it's attached here, what we presented.
Yes.
And so, I guess first of all, is there any questions about what was presented? And then I'll tell you what we got out of it after. It was very daunting as the clock was going backwards from 5 to 0, and the pressure was on, and Helen wasn't coughing that day, but if she had, we would have lost our time, I think, rather quickly. So I do want to thank Helen for presenting. It was a bit different than last year. It felt a little less personal this year than last year, but it was still a good experience.
So what we did give you is we gave you the written, which was 3 recommendations, and I'm sorry, somehow 3 got in your package twice. We spoke to Northern Factors, K-12 and childcare and general was what we presented under. And then what I gave you was the actual speech that I attempted to deliver. I did cut one part out because it took me a bit to understand that the clock was counting down rather than telling me how much. Yeah, I thought it was very difficult. So the part in here where I was going to thank them for the early childhood education spaces got cut out because I was out of time. We're not sure, but Angela's in the process and I'm in the process of fleshing out some things, because it would be fair to say that we seem to have at least one very shocked MLA who I know Michelle presented, Southeast presented, and it was kind of like, I think things are different in the north. By the time we finished our presentation, we never really knew who all the MLAs were in the room. There was no introduction. And unlike last year, when you were sitting in the on the Zoom call with all of the other presenters that were part of your group, we were isolated. We didn't get to hear what somebody else was saying. So it was boom, boom, boom. But we were asked specifically by one MLA, and because Angela did a great job of fielding questions, they asked for some flesh out of some of the statistics or some of the areas that I spoke to in the speech. And then they asked specifically some budget related questions, and Angela just had the information there, and it was boom, boom, boom. And this MLA said, well, you're going to give us all of those things you just said in your written follow-up to this presentation, aren't you? And we both kind of looked at one another. There's not really supposed to be a written follow-up.
Yeah, but we'll take the opportunity. They asked for a written submission with dollar figures and examples, really. And I spoke to things like the increases to fuel that we're seeing, the surcharges we're getting charged on delivery of both water and propane, just the increases that we're seeing in the last 2 months. So they were very interested in hearing more. So Helen and I will be working on a written submission, hopefully to go to them by the end of the week is my goal. I didn't ask Helen what her goal is, but my goal will change as Helen's changes, so.
No, well, I just don't, it's
Very
an,
fluid here.
it's very fluid. It's an opening.
Yes.
And so the piece that I was fleshing out was about the amount of time our kids are in front of non-certified TOCs. And Wade produces a report as part of our contractual obligations twice a year for Michelle. So I'll be taking some of the information from that and sharing it with the standing committee because it shows. And so whatever we send forward to the standing committee, we'll make sure we send to you as well, so you know. It's just a matter now of going back through and saying, okay, well, they told us they wanted, you know, further stuff to support what we said. And so it's just finding those facts right now. So.
It was a good experience overall. So.
You just referred to a report that Wade does for non-certified TOCs. Do they do one also for non-certified teachers? Like full-time teachers?
I don't know. I was doing this specific to the comment that I made to the Financial Standing Committee was that a substantial part of our our TOC list is non-certified individuals. And they asked for some flesh out of that. So I'm not, the piece that you're talking for would be letters of permission, and we can get that. We haven't
We've
had very
reported
many
that,
letters
yeah,
of
we've
permission.
reported that a few times already
Yeah.
out on
Oh.
LLPs, yeah.
I can't remember when it was, a few years ago, but I remember Stephen and Ida would have been there. A gentleman in the table behind us to the right, I remember this really good, questioned what a letter of permission was. He had no idea what it was. He was a trustee, but he had no idea what a letter of permission was, and swore up and down that he never heard of it and they never had any. Right? And we were just kind of all like, you don't?
Yeah.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
I know that South Peace's presentation was total recruitment and retention because they have, I think it's 26 right now on letter of
It's
permission.
really high.
And they're worried it's going to be worse next year. So that was where they were at. Aaron is needing to duck out. So thank you, Aaron. All right. So if there's nothing else on that, we'll move on to item number 13, our 5-year capital plan.
Yeah. Sorry, David, I changed it so that we could actually read the words, and I believe I shall read. So it's a little, we did the senior team did a bit of a review for what we've been asking for the past few years. Our priority at this time, and it's still several years out, would be Charlie Lake Elementary. So these project costs are, we have this new program now that the ministry has provided, My Caps, which I think translates to my headache, but it does calculate the project costs. So a full replacement, it's estimating at roughly 37 million for the Charlie Lake School. So that's a priority, but it's still going to be several years out. The current school can accommodate the numbers that are there. And obviously, if they want to give it to me next year, I'll take it. But we have a few other irons in the fire right now. So capacity-wise, the district probably couldn't take it on. But again, if it was given to me, we would do it. Then we had, if you recall, the previous year, we asked for two items have been taken off. We're no longer requesting a middle school, and we're no longer replacing replacement of Ecole Central, just because we've done so much work at Central. Actually quite a nice space now, and In the AFG, you'll note we were going to replace the windows there, and then I think the transformation of that building will be complete, so we took it off.
It'll be brand new.
Well, it is fairly new right now. And then, when we took off the middle schools, we added additions to Burt Bowes and Dr. Kearney. We saw some high numbers this year, but when we look at the trends, we're seeing that the enrollment is quite static. There's, little dip, little increase, but nothing that the schools can't accommodate. But so about 5 years out, 4 years out, we've asked for them to consider these additions, just because some extra classrooms, some ancillary space, like places for the students to gather, as well as an addition for a gymnasium in both schools. And again, the system calculated the cost. I'm not too sure why it came in different. It was the exact same square footage, but I'm going to trust that the system knows what it's doing here, so. And then we have this development happening, I'm not going to use the direction, I'm going to say across the street from Mount Murray, because I don't know my northwest, east, south, so, I guess northwest is what I put in here, but there is a premium on land in the town, in the city, if we did want to construct new schools, and that development, when it peaks, would have 4,000 new housing developments. So I put in, after speaking to the ministry, they said to put it on the ask list and see what happens. So I've included those as well. So this is my my 5-year submission for this year.
Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Bill, seconded by David. Discussion? David?
Just because it's one of my schools and it was on the plan, 101?
It is, I took it off of here because it's in the review stage right now. So it's already on their radar. We're just, yeah,
Yeah.
we're gathering more information.
We're gathering more information, and that particular school, we were looking at funding for it under a different pot of money,
Okay.
not the capital
Okay, that's fine. Just,
plan. It was to come out of a rural, remote.
okay, I seem to remember that,
Pause.
but I'm just, please, let's not
It's-
forget about that.
Right, it's still under review.
Okay.
Bill?
Our site acquisitions here, don't we currently own property down by Monterey?
We do.
Yeah, across the street.
Next, I think
Next
it's, next door to it
Yes.
for, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was historically slated for, a middle school. So, I'm just asking for, cause if everything kind of grows and the town booms in 10 years or whatever, we won't have, I'm just, trying to secure land,
Well,
kind of
Ida?
but we do have land next to Mount Murray as well.
But this land that you have here is in the new development, is it not?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the way it would,
Actually pans out.
Actually, right,
yeah, if it pans out, the high school would be directly across from Mount Murray and the middle school.
Where's the, sorry, in relation to, off topic, the Yoik has some land. Where in relation to that, to Monterey?
Right across.
right across from,
From Monterey?
Yeah.
Okay.
because Mulberry is
Yeah.
here, we have the land here, across the street is where the Doig has it, and the development is on the other side.
Okay.
So busy intersection.
Could be, yes. Trevor's got some really good ideas on that.
We've had a mover and seconder that, for the motion that the Board of Education approve the attached 2023-2024 capital plan. We've had some discussion, calling the question, all in favor? Moving on to item number 14, the annual budget. We did do our first reading of the budget. I'm going to ask Ida to read for me tonight because my capacity to get through it might be limited. We're looking to have the second and the third reading tonight, but before we move on with that, Angela wanted to bring us back, I know she wanted to bring us back information, and the feedback that she got from the ministry on what she presented to them, as well as speak to anything that's developed in this process over the last couple of years.
Okay, so after sending it to the ministry for review, there was just some small changes. If you look at Schedule 3A, which is page 12, there was, under the titles of Swiss, EFAP, and miscellaneous, we had, you can see to the left, it says provincial grant, federal grant, and other revenue, and we just had them all under the Ministry of Education, so we just had to move the Swiss, we had to move that down to a federal grant, and then for EFAP and miscellaneous, we just moved those numbers down to other revenue. Kind of a silly mistake, yes. Then on page 11, the 2022-23 AFG is actually 6,362 higher. So that number that I had presented in June went up to $299,020 from $292,658. And then there's a corresponding increase to services and supplies so that it's fully spent. And then page 6. Under the LEA recovery, which is a net zero effect, we had used the amount in the 2021-22 ministry document, and they gave us a different number. So it changed from $929,640 for LEA recovery to $976,903. But then if you, so that's line 2, and then if you look down under other revenues, the funding from First Nations is $976,903, so it's a net zero effect to revenue from that. But we do have, if you look at the funding for graduated adults, that was originally $18,863, and the ministry said that that was not a realistic number. So we bumped it up to the same as our amended budget to $39,000 for an increase of $20,137 increase to revenue. And then, sorry everybody, I was trying to figure out how to do this without it being confusing, but this is the best I could come up with. So for that $20,000 increase to graduated adults, we did a corresponding increase to student transportation for fuel. And so that increases the service and supplies for 7.70 student transportation to $1,406,481. So again, net effect increased revenue 20,137, correspondingly increased expenses 20,137. And then the overall we're getting there, guys. So if we look at schedule statement 2, you'll notice that there is an increase to total expenses of 26,499, which is due to the increase amount that we put into transportation, as well as the increased amount from the adjustment to the AFG expenses.
So this is a bit of a process question for me at this point.
Yes.
So in all of that tweaking,
Mhm.
when we did our first reading,
Yes.
we had a dollar value in it. Is it the same dollar value now?
No, the dollar value for the bylaw has now increased by 26,499.
Okay, so that's,
So what we will do is we will motion that we do the second and third reading this evening. And then after the second reading, we'll have questions if anyone has any questions.
okay.
So I will move that we do our second and third reading June 20th, with the third reading being short. The second one, I will read it in full. I will move it, so we need a seconder.
Seconded by Bill.
Annual Budget Bylaw, a bylaw of the Board of Education of School District Number 60, Peace River North, called the board to adopt the annual budget of the board for the fiscal year 2022-2023 pursuant to the section 113 of the School Act RSBC 1996 C 412 as amended from time to time, called the Act. 1. The board has compiled with provisions of the Act, ministerial orders, and the Ministry of Education policies respecting the annual budget adoption by this bylaw. 2. This bylaw may be cited as School District Number 60, Peace River North, Annual Budget Bylaw for the fiscal year 2022-2023. 3. The attachments, Statement 2 showing the estimate, revenue, and expenses for the 2022-2023 fiscal year and the total budget bylaw amount of $85,927,230 for the 2022-2023 fiscal year was prepared in accordance with the Act. 4. Statement 2 and 4 and Schedules 2 and 4 are adopted as the annual budget of the board for the fiscal year 2022-2023, read a second time, the 20th of June, 2022. So we need a mover. Moved by Bill, seconded by David. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. The third reading in short form, annual budget bylaw. A bylaw of the Board of Education of School District Number 60 to adopt the annual budget of the board for the fiscal year of 2022-2023 pursuant to the Section 113 of the School Act RSBC 1996 C 412 as amended from time to time, called the Act. 1. The board has compiled with provisions of the Act and Ministry of Education policies respecting the annual budget adoption bylaw. 2. This bylaw may be cited by School District 60 annual budget bylaw for the fiscal year 2022-23. The attached statement 2 shows the estimate, revenue, and expenses of 2022-2023 fiscal year in the amount of $85,927,230. Was prepared in accordance with the Act. 4. Statements 2, 4, Schedules 2 and 4 are adopted as the annual budget of the board for the fiscal year 2022-2023. And I need a mover. Moved by Bill, seconded by Helen. Any questions? All in favor? Carried.
Right, I don't have anything on the agenda under new business. PRNT update, Michelle.
Hey. I missed the last one, I think in May. So I have a question from my rural teachers around the employment-related accommodation policy. And so you'd made some revisions. What is the process now for it? And I'm kind of concerned about the timeline when it potentially could come back in August to be approved.
It would be September,
Okay.
or we'll keep it till September.
Okay.
And we will,
So
I
that's
haven't-
for sure it will be the September board meeting. Okay.
and then also, I know there's an email stream, so after it went through notice of motion tonight, I will email it to them tomorrow morning for them to review, and then we have the opportunity for a Zoom call if they would like. I know it's a little tight turnaround, but I had to wait for the board meeting before I sent it out. So.
Are you gonna try to do that before the end of June, or can that be done in September? What are you thinking?
I like I said, I'm open to it,
Either?
so yeah. So if they would like to, and they're not, they've emailed me back and forth, with questions, and I've had calls with them, so
She's responded already quite a bit.
we've responded, yes. So
Okay.
We'll touch base whenever it works for them, so I know it's a bit of a tight week, so.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so it would not be appropriate for me to ask questions about here, I would imagine. Okay, that's what I was wondering.
But you can email me.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, perfect. I will do that. So, other than that, I think, I just want to mention the steering committee meeting, like for the finance thing that you went to. And I brought 3 points forward, and it was around funding for public education, especially around our high incidence students, and there's like no funding for them, but just to do, like, really fund public education resources. And the second point was recruitment retention. And the third one was, teachers and all essential workers worked during the pandemic, and our premier never thanked anybody. So I just really put that out to them to thank you. It doesn't cost anything. Just say thank you to the people that kept the economy going in BC during the time of the pandemic. And then I said, well, what they could do as well is maybe put some money on the grid for everybody too. So I had to get that in there as well. And I know that Peace for Self talked about equity, about students, with students, the whole thing on equity with education and opportunities for students in classrooms. And why is it, it shouldn't be different from Peace for Self to Peace River North or to Vancouver. Opportunities should be opportunities in education across the board in BC. And so we're hoping that, something will happen, but I think equity is really important, even in our own district. So I brought that forward. Anyway, just have a nice summer, everybody. I may not be at the August meeting if you have one, so just happy summer.
You too.
Have safe travels, and rejuvenate and rest up for another busy year. I know it's going to be another busy year. Yeah. Thank you.
So, we do not have anybody here from CUPE tonight, nor DPOC. Any questions from the press and public?
No.
No. We don't have any in-camera motions to be brought forward for input? Yes, we do. You're right. Sorry. So, we will bring forward the motion that was made in camera to,
I'll move the motions be brought forward for invitation.
the seconder? Seconded by David. All in favor? Mover and seconder to adjourn. I might get that part right.
Yeah.
Moved by David, seconded by Ida. All right, all in favor? Carried. All right, you misunderstood me. I panicked because what I couldn't figure out, oh, yeah, we can stop the live stream, right? What I was trying to ask you is, the first reading of the budget was on